Hey guys, what's going on? Chris here with Shughead Gaming, bringing you my review for Phantom Covert Ops, developed and published by InDreams, and released exclusively for the Oculus Quest and Rift, June 25th, 2020. Depending on your region, the game retails for an estimated price of $30, which will also give you the ability to cross-play and cross-save the game on both the Quest and Rift. You are a Phantom, an elite covert operative with one night to prevent all-out war. Dispatched into hostile wetlands in your military kayak, utilize weapons and equipment to neutralize the enemy threat lethally or infiltrate unnoticed from the shadows. Phantom Covert Ops looks to bring a Tom Clancy attitude and AAA production values to VR. Stick with me while I put it through its paces on both the Quest and Rift to see if it delivers on that hype. As always guys, if you like this video, please hit that like button. It not only helps out my channel, but VR gaming as a whole. And if you'd like to see more VR content from me, please consider subscribing. And for video updates, hit that bell icon. For more VR info, you can also follow Shughead Gaming on Twitter and Facebook. It's that time again. Let's talk graphics. Even from the early footage we saw a while back, Phantom Covert Ops was clearly going to be a visually ambitious title. Coming from developer InDreams, whose last game was the fantastic but very cartoony Shooty Fruity, still one of my favorite wave shooters in VR, I was honestly a little doubtful that they could pull this off. Don't get me wrong, Shooty Fruity was a polished title, but come on, going from bouncing fruit to realistic AAA visuals is a significant level up for InDreams. And you know what? Short of a few small issues, they certainly delivered, and in many ways set an industry benchmark level when looking at the Quest port. For simplicity's sake, and honestly, shockingly at times, I will get this straight out of the way. The Quest version is outstanding visually, and on the Quest platform, really has very few peers. Despite an expected drop in resolution and texture detail, as well as a significant decrease in lighting effects, much of the visual look of the PC version makes the cut. Honestly, as I switched back and forth between the versions, the concessions made on the Quest version were certainly noticeable, but quickly forgotten, as InDreams has wisely designed Phantom Covert Ops to scale beautifully across the two platforms, in addition to different levels of PC hardware. And PC models and gun models are both well done, but not spectacular. But what did really stand out to me were the water effects that rippled and flowed around my boat. In addition, special mention must be made to the sniper rifle scope actually making the cut on the Quest version. Traditionally, a difficult feat on lower powered hardware due largely to it often requiring the game engine to render a completely separate image for the scope. The snap to a single eye is not the most immersive, but it works. Levels are large in overall scale, but are designed in a way that compartmentalizes action set pieces and delegates the more open areas to traversal from area to area. In addition, the heavy emphasis on stealth also ensures the action never gets too hectic, keeping required GPU resources to a minimum. The game's heavy use of darkness also greatly aids in pulling off this VR magic trick, and for the most part, it really works. In my opinion, this likely was a Quest game first, with the game's visuals being designed as such and then scaled up for PC where possible. Unfortunately, this means Phantom Covert Ops won't stand toe-to-toe with some of the best visuals on offer for PC headsets, but with that being said, it's certainly no slouch, despite only having the minimum options for performance adjustments. With the previously mentioned lighting and texture detail seeing substantial boosts, this extra bit of spit and polish really makes the PC version shine, with a level of authenticity simply not possible on the Quest hardware. Reflections on guns and water, along with an overall more sophisticated lighting pass, are at times truly fantastic to witness. The increase in texture detail is also very much welcomed, as it really gave the surrounding kayak and gear a AAA quality one would expect from a big studio release. Speaking of lighting, while often beautiful across both platforms and excellent at creating the game's foreboding atmosphere, I recommend not looking too hard at the light patterns and their related sources, as Phantom Covert Ops pulls the Michael Bay of level lighting, resulting in something that looks amazing, but requires you to suspend disbelief and not think too much about it. When taken all together, this post-apocalyptic feeling game world draped in darkness isn't quite AAA, but it's at times damn close, and really much better looking on the Quest than the hardware should allow. PC gamers will be very happy here, and Quest players, here's the game you show your friends. Sound is up next.
Status report. Holding position. Over.
Jorov is deploying his elite troops to the area. They're well armored, so be careful.
The first-rate quality to the visuals carries on as we look at the sound side of things. As this is most likely a stealth game to its very DNA, Phantom Covert Ops has chosen a sound mix that is often very understated, letting the atmosphere and small details breathe. Easily keeping company and competing with a Hollywood action blockbuster or a top-tier game from a large game studio, Phantom Covert Ops admirably plays with the big boys with a dynamic and bombastic music score that knows when to shut up. It often sits nicely back in the sound mix, letting the complexities of the sound mix be heard, with helicopters off in the distance existing in the same mix that prioritizes the sounds of water lapping up against your kayak as you wait patiently in the shadows. Interestingly enough, the developer has chosen to omit certain sounds around the impact of your boat or paddle against objects, but I actually never noticed it until I had to think about it, likely being omitted to focus the mix on more pertinent sounds to the gameplay. As such, the AI doesn't really react to the sounds you make outside of your gunfire or gadgets. This is an interesting choice though, as it certainly streamlines the gameplay, but also removes an important aspect, often utilized in the stealth genre. Gun sounds are authentic and handled nicely, although with most of your arsenal being of the silence variety, it wasn't until later in the game where a revised loadout allowed me to exercise my desire to go loud, making me wish the game had given me the option to remove the silencers at my own peril. And finally, the use of voice actors here in Phantom Covert Ops is first-rate across the board, bringing quality to everything from the chatty NPCs to the chatter over your radio. Special mention though has to go to a name most stealth fans will certainly know, in one David Hayter of Metal Gear Solid fame, who unrecognizably voices the lead antagonist General Nikolai Zurov. Having David in the game somehow helps legitimize the game's place in the stealth genre, and it certainly helps take what is already a very nicely done sound mix to another level. And that brings us to gameplay. Phantom Covert Ops is a game that just screams mainstream VR show and tell. With its simplified approach to the stealth action genre and unique spin on full locomotion, it delivers a full VR experience that is simple to pick up and play, while keeping users seated, hence reducing the possibility of motion sickness. Unfortunately, like an Apple phone, what makes it so accessible for many also comes at the expense of a more robust experience. Across Phantom Covert Ops' roughly 5-hour campaign, you will see about all the ideas the game has within the first few hours, leaving the following 3 hours treading familiar water. In addition to the campaign, players can unlock 14 challenge events, offering up various competitive trials and some gameplay ideas that just didn't fit in the confines of the campaign. These challenges are scored and placed on a global leaderboard, so score chasers should find some real added value here. Fortunately, what gameplay depth is here is done well, delivering competent gunplay and stealth mechanics that are carried by the absolutely incredible implementation of the kayaking mechanic that serves as your sole form of movement. Handling of guns and gadgets here is a bit of a mixed bag depending on what you want in a VR shooter. Everything here is designed to be as easy as possible to use, with guns in reach on your side, chest, and back, with gadgets and ammo all conveniently stored in front. Items can be picked up and simply dropped, snapping back into place, while reloading is as simple as bringing a fresh magazine near the gun. This approach is polished and easy, but I can see many VR shooter veterans looking for a little more realism to increase the immersion factor. In addition, I found the game limited my arm movement, preventing me from moving too freely. Since you have a full in-game body, this has the benefit of not allowing you to go full exorcist, but again, it was a little frustrating that the game enforced the kid gloves. On the other hand, shooting was not nearly as forgiving as you would be led to believe. Now, don't expect any bullet drop here, but I found myself really having to move in for a closer approach and carefully aim, or risk losing bullets that are intentionally in short supply, bringing me to the stealth mechanic that will have you more often than not taking your time and staying out of sight. In the cover of dark, you may as well be invisible to enemy NPCs, but get caught in the open and you will be rowing like an Olympic athlete to get to the shadows and recharge your health. As such, the game makes you actually stop and think when met with an infiltration situation, taking out your night vision binoculars and marking not only enemy and turret placements, but also doing recon on alternative paths and hiding spots, in addition to targeting destructible searchlights, generators, and objectives. Objectives are often given on the fly and added to from time to time with optional objectives such as taking out a high priority target. However, hear me on this. All these gameplay mechanics work together well, and they're fun, but make no mistake about it, this is first and foremost a rowing game with gunplay and stealth mechanics. Thankfully, the feeling of being in a kayak and rowing around is intuitive and handled brilliantly, absolutely nailing the sensation of being on the water and using real rowing mechanics to handle movement and turning, with only a single button hold to allow for sharper turning. For me, it was the small nuances that really sold me. Aspects such as using my oar to push off objects and then dropping it in the water to slow and drag turn the kayak, only to feel the haptic feedback in the controller simulating the feel of water resistance on my oar. This level of detail is how VR should be, and it makes rowing here easy for anyone to do, while also making it feel like a skill that you can master. The result is, a few hours in, I found myself at times blasting through checkpoints while expertly swerving past spotlights and enemy NPCs. Tracking here is handled fantastically and made even less of a hassle by the very forgiving range for picking up items. As for motion sickness, the premise of the game itself is a rather large comfort option, but for those who need more, you will find blinders and optional click turning in the options. And finally, that brings me to fun factor and my final review. Phantom Covert Ops isn't the deepest game out there, to say the least. With basically no upgrades or loadout options to speak of, it wears most of its gameplay mechanics on its sleeves. That being said, it is an incredibly polished experience that is easy for anyone to jump into and enjoy. Adding to that mainstream appeal, it also looks, sounds, and acts much like something you would expect in a Splinter Cell game. Unfortunately, this is the game's only real fault, and then it simply feels like a section in a game like Splinter Cell or the Metro series, instead of a fully fleshed out game. Being that this is my first review for either the Quest or PC VR headsets, if you're new to the channel, welcome, and thanks for tuning in. I hate numbered review scores and instead rate games on a basis of buy it, burn it, or wait for it, along with some detail of who might like it, dislike it, and why. Phantom Covert Ops is VR candy, plain and simple. It plays, looks, and sounds fantastic, but won't leave you feeling very satisfied at the end if you're looking for a deeper gameplay experience. And for those of you who are okay with that and don't mind this style of game and the physicality of it, this is an absolute buy, and a must buy, especially for Quest owners, as this is the Quest's showstopper title for the time being. And guys, that's it for me. If you like this video, please hit that like button. And if you'd like to see more VR content from me, please consider subscribing. And for video updates, hit that bell icon. I'll catch you guys on my next video.